The division in America today shows one side supports the rule of law, the other, the left, does not. And that has many people leaving the Democrats behind and jumping aboard the Trump train. Please welcome former Special Assistant to the President and Communications Director at America First Action, Kelly Sadler. Kelly, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on.
Kelly, you know, I play that video because I want it to be a wake-up call for people out there that seem to me blind to what police actually go through on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, that video is so hard to watch. But I think the majority of people, and this was shown in a Monmouth poll that came out just this week, support our law enforcement and are worried about the safety of their communities. 65% of respondents put law and order as one of their top concerns. And even more telling was that of non-Republican, Black, and minority voters, 60% of them were concerned about safety issues in their local communities and not having the police response necessary to keep their communities safe. So this is an issue that's not just happening in Seattle or in Portland, but it is now growing nationwide of folks just really concerned that when you call 911, you know, you might not have anyone that answers you.
Yeah, you know, Kelly, President Trump made law and order, support of police, a fundamental core of his campaign. And so many times in politics, we see politicians pick issues because they think it might be good for them in the polls. But this issue is simply common sense. Yeah. How are the Democrats even coming down when they come down hard against officers and they come down coddling the criminals?
Well, you know, and President Trump has been at the forefront of this issue. When you had the George Floyd protests that happened, and then you quickly had Seattle, the Chopped or Chaz or whatever they call it, then Portland burning for 100 days. I think the real inflection point came in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a very small town where you had rioting, the destruction of small businesses, the pleas to the governor to come, please send, you know, we need the National Guard, we need some law and order, and they went ignored because the left is so worried that if they stand up for law enforcement, then they're somehow against Black Lives Matter, which is also a part of their base that they have accepted. You see Kamala Harris in Minneapolis saying on her Twitter account, please donate to bail out these rioters. You have Joe Biden in his, you know, in the Biden-Sanders unity plan, basically calling not just for the defunding of police, but for the restructuring of police and law enforcement. And these are just issues that to us make zero sense. It's leading to these law enforcement officers cutting back and not engaging because they don't feel the support in their local communities. And this is something that the left has encouraged.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because I do believe that overwhelmingly across this country, we are going to see a mass exodus of officers from policing, whether they take early retirement or you're going to have officers that are not going to want to go into the job anymore through attrition. These police departments are going to be decimated, and the people that are going to be hurt the most are the people that the Democrats are pretending to help, but they're only pretending to help them. They're not helping them, Kelly.
No, and we're already seeing this in New York City, for example, where you have massive amount of NYPD taking early retirement. This is why you see so many of these law enforcement officers and unions support President Trump. I mean, these are endorsements that he did not get in 2016, but the situation is becoming so dire that they're like, yeah, we need someone to stand up for us. And you're right. The crime that's happening disproportionately affects minority communities. And we're seeing in the polls now that African Americans, Hispanics, they don't want to defund the police. They want the police in their communities, keeping law and order. They want safe communities for their kids to be able to go to school and to bring them up safely. And so this is a huge disconnect between the Republicans and the Democrats on what should be just a common sense issue.
Yeah, you know, the Democrats will hear guys and gals like you and me blaming the crime that is overwhelmingly that you have minority criminals. But what I want to make very clear, overwhelmingly, the victims are all minorities as well, just about overwhelmingly. And so this is an issue that severely affects those minority communities. Only the president is doing something about it. Kelly Sadler, we appreciate you talking to us today. Always great having you on the program.
Thanks for having me on.